Hello everyone, so today we will be doing this question. The figure below shows the front elevation and plan of a truncated right hexagonal prism with a 30 mm hole passing through. Draw full size the two given views and construct an auxiliary elevation on line x1 y1 or x prime y prime. So what we could look at here is for the question, we can see that we were given the two views. We can see the projection symbol here. We have some basic construction, and then we have to do the auxiliary view at this particular degree. So what we're going to start with is once we have a question like this, we're going to focus on recreating full size the drawing, and then we're going to work on the auxiliary view. So let's jump right into that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by, in my construction line, I am going to do the XY line. And I'm just going to make it, let's just say 100 across. And then the next measurement is we have to go 40 down. Because now we're going to get the center of the circle. So I'm just going to start from any point here. Right, so once I hit here, I am now going to go down 40. Escape. And out. So now I'm going to go down 40. And then once I go down 40, now I'm going to go across. Sorry, I'm going to go across. Let's just say right here should be good. I'm going to swap this now to my center line because I'm going to set up the center of the circle, and I'm going to just take the midpoint of this for my vertical center line for the corresponding circle, and I'm just going to draw it about here. Right, so I'm also going to swap this across to the center line as well, and then just for wait, it didn't swap. Nice. So once I do this, enter, I'm going to actually just grab this and I'm going to line it up with the center. So now that I have the center line, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference the construction at the bottom, and I'm going to look at, okay, what is the next thing that I can draw. So there's two more details, one here which is a 30 diameter circle which is going through the truncated prism, and we also have a 60 millimeter hexagon across corners. So AC stands for across corners. So again, I'm gonna do C, enter. I'm still in my construction line. I am going to draw the circle on the inside, which is 30 in diameter, so that's 15 in radius. So I'm gonna go C, enter again. I'm going to construct a circle now which is 30 in radius, which corresponds to our 60 diameter across corners. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to construct, I'm going to use the POLY. Alright, I'm going to use the poly command, and I'm going to select, hey, I want an object with 6 sides, correct. I would like it to do from the center. I give it the center point, and now it's asking me whether or not I want to inscribe or circumscribe about the circle. Now since we want to put this, since this is across corners, we're gonna inscribe it in the circle. I'm just gonna pull it up. So now you could see that across the corners of the hexagon we actually have, and let me just pull my dimension very quickly, across corners, and I'm going to put my dimensions to the left since we'll be drawing on stuff to the right. So across corners is actually 60. I'm also going to do one for the distance. We also give this here. Awesome. And last but not least, I'm going to just pull a quick one for the radius of this circle. I'm going to leave it at R15. So I'm just going to leave this here for now. So once I get to this point, there are two lines here that I would like to convert to my outline, because these are the actual objects from the question. Now, the next thing that we have to do is we have to draw the top. So they didn't give us any particular height, so I'm just going to go up 10, and then I'm going to go across So I went up 10 millimeters and I just went across. Now, one of the things that I always recommend is continue to use your projection lines when you have to draw an object, or when it is you have to switch different views. So I'm going to copy this. Alright, so we're going to copy this particular line. Then I'm going to go down. We're going to select the base, and we're going to select the base of our line, and we're just going to copy that main line across. And then we're also going to do the awesome. So now that we have all of our lines that we wanted to copy, I'm going to go ahead and click exit, and then we're going to start to construct this top half, or this top view. So we're going to come from the 20 line, and we're going to come from here, and we're going to we're going to switch out of our projection. We're going to go back to construction 1. Then what we'll do is we'll come here, we'll start at our base, and we're going to go up. They gave us a height of how much? A height of 20. Then I'm going to do a slight little nudge. Now the reason why you're not going to see, or at least in my drawing you're not going to see the construction line coming up, is because of the layers of the line. So because there are layers, the projection line is coming on top of my construction line. That's okay. I pull a small line across just so that I can see where the line ends, just for reference. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that from that point, and as we can see, there's a 45-degree line. So yes, prism is cut at 45 degrees. So now I'm just gonna come at this point here. Nice, and now I'm gonna go tab 45 tab, so that locks our line at 45 degree, and I'm gonna draw it up just up until it passes this intersection here. I'm gonna trim, and now I have the top of the cut. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is switch across to my main object outline. I'm gonna click L enter, and I'm gonna start from basically any point, but I'm gonna draw it down till I touch the base. I'm gonna go across. Ctrl Z, make sure it locks the end of our projection lines, and then we're gonna go up, and then we're gonna go back down. Awesome. So once it is that we have this, we could go ahead and hit escape, and we basically have the general outline of our figure. Now we know from the drawing that there are two hidden lines and there's one solid line, so we're gonna go ahead and draw that. So we're gonna go ahead with the middle line coming down from the center to the end of the object, and then we're gonna switch to hidden line or hidden details. Then we're gonna jump from here to the bottom, and enter from here to the bottom as well. Awesome. Now once we get to this particular part here, we would have finished the construction for the two given views. Now we actually have to proceed where we draw our auxiliary view. Now we're going to be using these projection lines a lot more, which will be good. So what I'm going to do now, right, you can just take a couple minutes, or not even a couple minutes, but like 2 minutes, just to make sure that you'll have the dimensions all set and that you're ready to proceed. So I'm just showing you again, from here to here is supposed to be 45 degrees, as well as the linear line, or the height of this is actually supposed to be 20 according to our drawing. So we have this is good. Now the next thing that we're gonna do is, now all of these are just for your reference, I'm just showing you how to draw here. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna look at that angle or that view. And I know you're wondering, okay, well, what exactly is auxiliary? So long story short, the auxiliary view is just another way of viewing an object. So we have our standard front end plan, but then there are times when we would like to view an object from a different angle to view the details, or to at least or get a better view of the details, right? Or let's just say even some measurement that we would want to extrapolate from the drawing. This is where the auxiliary view comes into play. So off the bat, we're gonna just look at the angle. We're gonna construct the angle that we're gonna take the x, y, and y prime line, and then we're gonna do the projection coming across. So I'm just giving you all a heads up. So now I'm gonna go L enter. I'm going to, sorry, we're gonna switch back to our construction line. I'm gonna go L enter. Nice. I'm gonna go across. I'm gonna go across a bit. About here should be okay, and then I'm gonna go up tab 135 tab, and that is gonna give us our 45-degree line on this side. Awesome. Now once we reach to this particular point and we have our 45-degree line, we want to make sure that our projection lines intersect this, because we'll use this as our point of reference to then construct our object going forward. So I'm going to switch back to my projection lines. I'm going to go L enter, and I'm going to start off by, let's pick one of the furthest points away. So I'm going to start off by drawing a line from here. I'm going to go tab 45 just to lock that line in a 45-degree angle. I'm going to pull it significantly past this, our reference line for our auxiliary view, and then I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to grab the base points, and now for all of the significant views I'm just going to cut the object, sorry, mark the object. So as you can see, I would have picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So all of the points for the exterior of the object is what I'm marking off right now, and then we'll move on to the interior of the object. So we want to keep the amount of lines that we have to reference to a minimum right now. So now that we have our reference line, let's look at exactly what these reference lines are. So we know for sure that when it comes down to, let me just switch this across the main outline, that this line that we had, this horizontal line that we have coming across here, is actually our TEXT. I'm just going to label it to my caps lock. So this is actually going to be our X line, enter, and then we have our Y, enter, escape. Right, so this here is actually going to be our X corner, and then on the other side of the line we actually have our, let me just zoom out of it. Right, on the other side we actually have our Y corner. Right, so we do have our XY line, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark off the other part. So let's just copy this as well. So we're gonna grab this X, we're just gonna mark it here. I'm also gonna mark it here. Nice. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna edit this, and we're gonna make sure that that's a Y. Awesome. So not only is it Y, sorry, but it's actually we're gonna label our own Y prime, and we're just gonna put that little apostrophe there, and we're also gonna do that for the X. So when we use such notations like x1, y1, what we are symbolizing is that these have some type of relationship or second relationship to this particular line here. So for example, this would be x1, sorry, this would be the original one, then this would be the first copy of the line, and then another copy. But this shows the relationship when we label it like this. It shows the relationship between this part of the drawing and this part, meaning that this is the exact same line but from a different view. Now, now that we've gotten to this particular point, what we're gonna do is we are going to mark off the heights that we would have taken originally from here, which in my case it would have been 10. So let me just show you all. Now my dimensions are strictly to for you all to observe what I would have done. So I would have taken a height of 10 off. So I'm going to continue that trend where I come from here, I go, oops, we're going to switch back to the green construction. I'm going to come from my XY line. I'm going to highlight here. I'm going to go up tab 45 just to lock it, just in case it's not working on your AutoCAD. I'm going to lock it to 10, and then we're going to go down. We're going to snap that to the 45, snap it back. So then we're going to have this base. So now this base here, this horizontal line here, is now represented by this 10mm line. And since we already have our projection lines, we could go ahead and just draw a nice line from one end to the other end, and this will now symbolize the base of our auxiliary view of the object. So once we get to this point here, it's just a matter of taking the measurements that we originally have for the measured lines, which correspond to our projection lines, and then marking them off and creating our object. So let's do that right now. Let's see what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shorten this a bit because we're going to have to pull up quite a few measurements. And now I'm going to take my dimensions and then I'm going to go, these two hidden lines are for the center, so I'm going to leave that out for now. I'm going to go 1 2 and I'm going to pull from here to here, and then I'm going to go with the other one, which would be nice with this one here, and then I'm also going to take, sorry, not this one. I'm actually going to take the entirety of the back, and if you watch what I'm taking, I'm just pulling the measurements for the, let's pull this one here, nice. So I'm just taking the measurements for the solid lines outside. So the two hidden lines on the inside are the ones that I basically left out for our reference purposes, because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with too much measurements. So now what I have to do is I now have to see where those lines or the measurements that I took correspond to the points, and then where they will be projected up. And we're going to do this going around the object. So off the back, I'm going to use the outline. I'm going to click text, and I'm going to start off by simply using 1, enter 2, enter 3, 4, 5, 6. So that should represent 6 points. Now I'm going to come here, nice, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to start from let's start from this point here, and I'm going to go 1. We know that this is for this point here. Let's just mark it here, and then we're also going to mark the 1 on the drawing. So we're basically going to have 1, then we're going to have 2, so we're going to copy 2 as well. We're going to grab 2, we're going to put 2, we're going to go clockwise for this question. We're going to put 2 comes from here, mark off our 2 line, sorry, Ctrl C, 2 is basically around here, and then we're also going to project the 2 line up and say, oh, okay, 2 lands right here. Awesome. So now I'm going to go around again. I'm going to go for 3, enter, grab the 3. I'm going to say, hey, where does the 3 land here? So 3 is 1 here. I'm going to go one. Let me just rest this right here so that I know. Nope. Control Z. It snapped, so I'm just gonna Control Z. I'm gonna go closer to the object where I want it. Then I'm gonna just click that there, so I know that that is the third line. Then I'm gonna go up, and then I'm gonna mark it on where it is as well. So as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm just laying out the groundwork for where the projection lines are going to be. Now I'm gonna go 4, enter, gonna copy the fourth line, we're gonna mark it up here. Now I'm gonna be like, okay, the fourth line is this one here, it's gonna be the last one. So I'm also gonna mark the fourth line off here as well. And I'm also gonna put 4 beneath the 3 because these two share a similar height. And then I'm gonna go 5, enter. Then I'm gonna put the 5 here, and 5 is basically on the center. So I'm gonna go COPY. Let me just grab that again, enter. Nice. So we know that 5 is basically the same place. So I'm gonna put it here. So I'm just gonna rest that there for now, just for the reference. So, and then I'm gonna go. Okay, well if the 5 is line is down here, the 5 is gonna go all the way up, and the 5 is gonna be right around here. Now once I do that, then my last one will be the 6. So I'm gonna click enter, specify the base point. My 6 is gonna be this last one here. So I'm just gonna click it. And then I'm gonna follow the 6 up, and it's gonna be right beneath the one. So I'm just gonna put that there. Now I didn't do the same between the 25, but we're gonna follow the 6th line or the 6th line going up. It's gonna go now, go across here, and it's gonna land right here. Awesome. So now that I finished copying all of the information needed to follow through with the line, now what I'm gonna do is I'm just simply going to switch to my construction, and I'm going to draw the length from this one particular point, the length of the line that corresponds to the number. So again, what you want to look at this point, and I know that some of the placements may be confusing to some persons, right? But what you want to look at is, hey, where's the starting point for my measurement? My starting point in particular will be not from the XY line, but it's actually from the offset that I took from the XY line. So I'm going to look at from this point here to the first here would be 20, and that would be for my 1 and my 6. So I'm going to click L enter. I'm going to do 20. I'm going to tab 45 tab, and then I'm going to go 20, enter. Then I'm just gonna, now remember I said my layers are a bit off, meaning they're stacked oddly. So I'm just gonna make a small little marker, tab 45 tab, and I'm gonna go do the same thing for this as well. I have 20, and now I just leave a small little line. And now right, this allows me to just simply just create a point and now replace my little markers. And now what we can see is you basically have 2 points. And now I'm going to go around the circle and continue that with the other corresponding lines. And what you see is our object will now start to take shape. So you could go ahead and do that for me while I continue mine as well. I'm going to start. So now I want to look at the 2 or the second one, which is 46 in height, and it's 2 and 5 are both common in that view. So I'm going to go L enter. I'm going to go from the 2 tab 45 tab, and the height is 46. And of course I'm going to leave a small little mark. Then I'm going to go on the 5, and I'm going to do the exact same thing from here. Tab 45 tab, oops, and enter 5 tab 45 tab. Then I'm gonna go, what was the height? The height was 46. 46, enter, and then we're gonna put that small little marker there, POINT. We're gonna put in our points. So we're gonna put 1 point here, we're gonna put another point here, and then if you're using a method similar to mine, you can just remove those markers. So now I only have 2 more points, which would be the 3 and the 4, and those 3 and those 4s from this view will correspond to the highest point, which is 71.9. So now I'm gonna go 3 and 4, I'll enter. I'm gonna go from the 3, I'm gonna go tab 45 tab, I'm gonna hit the 71.9, enter. Then I'm gonna make this small little cut, I'll enter. Now I'm gonna do the same thing, tab 45 tab, then I'm going to do the 71.9, 71.9 tab, and now I'm going to make enter. Nice. And I'm going to make that small, POINT. Point, we're going to mark off the original points that we want to save, and now we're going to just remove everything else that is not relevant. So now that we have this, we're going to connect and see our object. So it's okay for us to now switch across to our outline and enter. And as we know, all of these are vertical lines coming up, so there's going to be front and the back of the object. So what I would recommend is just simply doing or starting with connecting the dots on top of your object, so that you kind of get a view of how everything is going to line up. So center point for all of your points, enter. So now we could basically see that a view, a kind of peek in to where that object was cut. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to go from those points, the visible points, because I know there will be parts of it that will be, so for example 1 and 2, those will be hidden because those will be on the opposite side of the object. I'll explain in a second once I finish this. And then one here, I'll enter, then we're going to grab it from here, and then we're going to pull it down to this. Awesome. So now we have this part of the drawing. What we're simply going to do is we are simply going to, let's talk about the view now. So the auxiliary view is coming at 45 degrees, and it showed us that, hey, it's 45 degrees coming this way. And what that means is we are looking, don't mind my little example arrow, we are looking at tab 45 tab, we are looking at this direction. So we're basically going to be looking from this direction of the object, that 45-degree angle, looking at the object, looking at from this particular view. Meaning if I was supposed to look at it from this view, it would also be around here. So looking at it from this direction as well. Okay, so we're going to be looking at it from this direction, but from the plan, our view has turned 45 degrees and we're looking at it like from like this way. So this is where our eyes will be. So let me continue. Nice. So once we reach to this particular part, this is where more of the drawing comes out. So for reference purposes, I'm just going to highlight some of these, And now, since I'm not going to be using them, 2, 3, I'm just taking some of my projection lines. And since I'm not going to be using them, I'm actually going to put them in my gray construction line so that it just kind of dulls them so I don't have to reference them. Awesome. So now at this point now, the only thing that's left for us to get the points for will be the inner circle. And I guess that is what this question is all about. So at this point, what you're gonna do for me is you're just gonna we have to map this circle on this, but there aren't really any significant points other than the four quadrants, to these quadrant points, um, to reference as valid points. So what we're going to do is we're just going to increase the number of points to increase the accuracy of our drawing. That's why we take 12 is usually a standard number, but you, if you wanted a more accurate drawing, you can actually make more divisions. It would just take more time, but 12 is a pretty decent number. So now we're going to just do 12. Yeah, let's do a 12 point division. So we're gonna we're gonna divide this object into 12 segments, and now these are the 12 segments. So I'm gonna switch from outline. Let me just Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. I'm gonna go back into my construction lines, and I'm gonna use my guidelines just because I want the yellow to stand out. I'm gonna divide the object into 12 oops, I'm going to select the object to divide and divide it into 12 parts, and these are going to be the 12 parts here. Now some persons, depending on whether or not you're using paper or AutoCAD, you can do your divisions by using your 60-30 set squares, where the lines you draw on the inside can come from here to the outside at the relative degrees in order to do your division. If you use an AutoCAD, then the 60 and 30 commands may work best for you. I would recommend that you consult with your teacher or your examiner or whoever will be guiding you, and you can just verify what their drawing standards are. So now what we're going to do is we are going to use those divisions, and we're just going to send the lines on the other two drawing. In fact, on the first drawing, I'm just going to grab that and send it up right now. Nice, and let that snap there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this using the same projection method. I'm just going to grab the base point and I'm just going to go around the circle, marking off those significant points. And what you see is you see that I basically missed my center line. However, once we do the 45 degrees now, I'm just gonna come here. Right, I'm just gonna come here for the 45 and just zoom out, because now we have to, since we have those divisions, we have to find out where those points correspond on both our views. Tab 45, tab, I'm just pulling it up a little further. Now what I'm going to do is copy this, zoom in, and once I get the copy, now I'm going to place them around the circle. Awesome. Around. And for this particular drawing, I am just going to do 6 of those lines coming across, simply because those 6 lines, because of the 45-degree angle that we have, those 6 lines actually correspond or overlap with the other points. So I know that, or if I label it, one of these lines are actually the projection lines for 2 points, and same goes for my view, for my front view here. So once I have this, I'm just going to take a minute and just clean up the drawing a bit. So I had my labeling, these labelings here. Nice. So I'm just gonna grab these labels and just for a minute I'm just gonna switch those across to my just gonna switch them across to my green construction lines. Ctrl Z. Nice. I'm just gonna switch them across to my green construction line so that it doesn't clash too much with what I have going on. And once I got to this point, now it's for me to actually label and execute on plotting the points around here. So you're gonna stop and you're gonna be like, okay, well, I have the projection lines, but what else do we need? So now what we have to is we have to reference the height of the intersecting points on this side and then draw them here in a circle. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm just gonna grab these and let's just pull these out a little bit more so that it doesn't interrupt. Nice. And we already finished with some of these, so I'm just gonna grab this line here, just move it out of the way a bit, and I think we're finished with this for as a demonstration. So I'm just gonna delete this as well. Awesome. So now, since these are actually the true length of these lines, I'm just going to take all of those points and take a measurement. Now this is the internal circle, so it's going to start from the hidden line, then it's going to go to the next line in order, and then we're going to be 33, then it's going to go to the other one, and we're going to continue doing this until we have all of the necessary heights for what we need to execute our drawing. So again, we have the center point here. We're going to continue. And then we have two more to do. I'm just going to grab this one. I'm just going to pull this up to here. This, I'm just going to move this out the way a little bit more. I'm just moving it out the way. And last but not least, the one that we missed should be this line here. Let's put that in order. Nice. So here we have all of the measurements in order. So we have from 31 to 61 and all the points in between. Those are what we are going to plot now. So this is important. At this point, what you want to do is you want to take a minute just to understand exactly where you are going to draw. Yeah, you just want to take a minute to understand where exactly you're going to draw your points. So come here. Now what we could do is, let me just remove this 10 because I want to create some space. Awesome. So we have from here to here. Good. So what I'm going to do is I want TE, TXT. I'm going to start off by taking my text. Let's use a different color. I'm going to start off by taking my orange and enter. Nope. TEXT, enter. I'm gonna go across. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to go one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, and we stop there for now. I see. Nice. Awesome. And now I'm gonna take these. So I'm gonna copy this. And now what I'm gonna do is I am going to one by one, I am going to mark off each individual. So let's just say this one particular line here. Now, like I said, these two pair up, but you could start with, let's just start with this particular line here. So as we can see, this particular line, let me just grab this. This particular line here corresponds to, if we were to follow it up, it would be this line here. This would actually correspond to the first line here on this line. So let's just mark that. So the line actually starts from here, either one, because it passes through these 2 points, and we're gonna go up, and then we're gonna reach a point where it's on our drawing, on our auxiliary projection, and then we're gonna take the height from here. So we're gonna go back, we're gonna say, okay, what is the first point? The first point, if we were to follow it, it would be at the height of 38.5. So the first point we're going to start from is 38.5. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So we're going to go L enter on this line, tab 45 tab, so lock that to 45 degrees to the 8.5. Then we're going to make that small little cut. So we know that one for this particular line here, one of the points will be at 38.5, and if you follow the other point, which is this one here, if you follow that one up, it's actually going to be at 33. So each point, or each line, each projection line, sorry, is going to correspond to 2 points. So you know that this one here is from here, it's up here, that's 33. So then I'm going to come here, I'll enter, and now I'm going to just grab that 33 all over again. Lock it at the 45, snap it at the 45, sorry, and 33, enter, and I'm going to make my small little cut here. Nice. So those are 2 points so far, and now we're going to do the next one, COPY. So we're going to copy it. We're just going to copy this. We're going to say, okay, the second line that we're going to be looking at would be this one here, which would correspond to, awesome, which should be right here. And we're doing this so just so that we don't get lost while we're doing it. And we know that this now corresponds to the center line, and if we follow, it will also correspond to the most extreme line. So if we wanted, we could also just put this here. I'm just giving you all, oops, snapped on top of it. I'll just delete that for now. So these two are on our 2 lines. So then we'll take the first height. One of them is 31, and I'm going to go L enter. We're going to grab the 2 line from the 2 line from our point of reference. 45 tab, 45 tab, 31, enter. So we have the 31. Make our small little incision just so that we don't forget it. And then we're going to go L enter. We're going to grab, so we did the 31 already, which is this one here. Then the other one, which is the center line, goes up here. And then we have it coming here at 46. So now I could come across here, and I could simply come back at the 2 prime tab 45 tab, and I forgot the height. The height was 46. Awesome. So now I'm going to enter 46, enter, and then we're just gonna put a small little cut where that is. Nice. POINT. And then what I can do is I can just simply mark off those placeholders that I have there, and I can get rid of them. I know this may some persons may not be accustomed to doing these small slashes, but simply just use it when I'm drawing and I don't have time to just enter points for each one. So now we can go on to the third one. So again, we're going to copy that. We're just going to mark exactly where the third one is here, and then we're going to mark the third line coming up here, so we know that it's going to be here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to see which 2 points it corresponds with. So we know the third one is here. Oops, where did that go? Control C. Nice. And we know the third one was this one here. For some reason it's not snapping. Right, so we got it there. So now the third one is going to be there, and then so that's one, and then the other one is actually going to come all the way down here, and once you trace it up, it's going to be here. Now again, you don't have to follow this labeling convention. I'm just simply using it to show you all where we have to look. Awesome. So we know that this height, and this height will be for the tail line. So then we have 33, and for the other height, which is slightly above, so let's just mark off the 33 before we forget. We're gonna come here, I'll enter, we're gonna go up the 45, 33, enter, make our small little mark, and then we have the other one, which should be here, follow this across, and then we have 53.5. And enter, grab this mark, doing it again, nice. And then once we reach this point, we're going to make that little mark again, POINT. Awesome. Then we're going to do it here as well. Awesome. Nice. So now we have these two particular points. You're gonna have to go ahead and go through with going around the drawing, understand the points, getting the measurement, and putting it on. So let's do that now. You can do it on your own while I finish mine. Nice. So I am almost finished. I just have four more points to do. And now I'm just gonna grab it from here. Right, so grab the point. That is the furthest point, which corresponds to 61. I'll enter, click here, furthest point, 61, tab 45, enter. Get the furthest point here, make a smaller line. Now we're gonna look at where that corresponds to. So that corresponds to the center line. Center line actually is at 46. I'll enter, grab it from here, up 46, tab 45, enter. For some, make a smaller incision here. Then we have two more points. We have this one here, which is at 59. I'll enter here at 59. Small incision, and so we have the 59. I'll enter. Then with the 59, we actually have a right here. So 59 and 53.5. Nice. Now that I finished doing it, I'm just gonna mark off my points. Nice. And delete my little markers. Then once we reach this point, we're just gonna go to be align. We're just gonna do a spline. I would recommend for this drawing choosing more of the apparent smoother parts to finish off your spline. So I will start and end at that point simply because it's more well spaced. Gonna do center point for all of these. Enter, and then we're gonna make this the main object outline. Awesome. And there we go. That is how we actually do the auxiliary. So what I would recommend at this point is you just take the time to clean up your drawings. For example, these lines here, I'll do TR enter, and you could just like trim them down. And yeah, same goes for here, and you can just trim these down. Awesome. And you should be good. So take the time to clean up your drawing after this, and yeah, that's it for this example. Good luck everyone. Let me just move this out of the way. Awesome. Remember to like and subscribe. Feel free to leave a message with or a comment with questions that you may want to tackle, and maybe we can get it sometime.